Hi guys! Have any of you ever seen the fishing pole trap? Well, you're in luck. I have 4 fishing pole traps to share with you. They're absolutely incredible and spectacular. Okay, let's jump straight into the first trap. Historically, this trap comes from the Ruy Lopez. Just continue with knight to f6. Berlin defense. And if white continues with castling, we're still in standard book moves. We play knight to g4, fishing pole variation. And according to online databases and top engines, the move here is pawn to h3, clearly attacking the knight. So what should you play? Let's push the h-pawn to h5. But before we continue, let me share a quick tip that might come in handy. This fishing pole idea only works if you haven't castled yet, in this case, kingside castling. So if you've already castled, don't go for it. Why? Because your rook needs to stay on its original file, and your queen should also stay on its original square, just like this. So if you still want to castle later, you can always choose queenside castling. In this position, since we haven't castled yet, it's perfectly fine to go for the fishing pole. Push the h-pawn to h5. Because if pawn captures the knight, you simply recapture with the h-pawn. At the same time, you're attacking the knight. And no matter where the knight goes, whether it's e1 or h2, it doesn't make any difference. Your next move stays exactly the same. Bring the queen to h4. Then you capture the knight, and it's checkmate. And if knight captures the pawn instead, just move the queen to h1, checkmate. So in most cases, white will push the pawn. That's also considered the best move. Another popular move is bringing the rook to e1. It gives the king an escape square. Okay, now capture the knight with check. King moves. Now jump the knight. It looks like we're attacking the bishop. And if bishop moves, or whatever white decides to play, queen comes to h1, checkmate. That means white has no way to stop the queen from coming to h1 mate. Good job, Mr. Knight. Or even if, pawn gets pushed, giving the king a little breathing room, we just push the pawn. Now we take control of f2. Look at this bishop, hoping your knight forgot about dinner. So after bishop escapes to c4, or maybe to a4, or whatever white tries to do, then queen goes to h1, checkmate. Fishing pole is very effective, especially if your opponent isn't familiar with it, and it becomes very easy for you to break down the opponent's defense. Okay, let's go back. What if white doesn't continue with rook to e1, and instead pushes the pawn to f4, giving king an escape square? Go ahead and push the pawn. We control f2. Then capture the knight, mate! So rook has to move. King can survive a little longer, maybe going to f1. Go ahead and capture the knight, check. King has only one move. Don't rush the queen to h1 just yet, check. Then capture on g7. Even so, we are still winning. Let's just finish the game quickly. Knight comes to d4. Yep, attacking the bishop. But white's biggest problem is still the queen to h1, checkmate. Exactly the same as before, no matter what white plays. Mate! Thanks, pony. Fishing pole number 2! We're going up against the queen's pawn game with Charlotte Gambit. Pawn to d6. Most of the time, white captures the pawn. Charlotte Gambit accepted. Bishop recaptures. The most popular move is knight to f3. We bring the bishop to a more active square. And according to the Lee Chess database, white usually continues with pawn to e3, followed by development of the light-squared bishop. Fine. Look here. The white dark-squared bishop doesn't have much space to operate. It's time to continue with knight to f6, so there won't be any pin from the bishop. And after white plays bishop to e2, the pin is broken. Continue with knight to c6. Let's say, white castles kingside. Queen to e7. Knight to c3, standard development. We castle queenside. And this position is still balanced, a typical setup from the Charlotte Gambit. But white has to be very careful here. No room for mistakes, like trying to chase the bishop too early. We can continue with bishop to h2, check. White's queen falls. In many cases, the bishop usually goes to d2, blocking the threat of a discovered attack. We move the king to a safer square. Let's say pawn to h3 tries to kick the bishop. Please don't respond to that threat. Now we go for the fishing pole setup. And if pawn takes bishop, we recapture with the pawn. Knight has to move. Now it's different. Knight cannot go to h2. Not only does the rook fully control the h-file, but your bishop is also ready to create serious trouble. Then we capture the knight with check. King moves, but it's still not safe, because there's still a discovered check threat. So wherever the knight goes, we continue with queen to e5, attacking the knight, and there's a mate in one threat, queen to h2. Clearly, white is on the brink of collapse. Okay, your opponent has no choice. They have to push the pawn to f4, attacking the queen while also protecting the knight. I like this. We continue by capturing en passant. Knight still has to go. And after the knight captures the pawn, it also regains control of h2. Okay, no problem. We slide the queen to h5. Get ready, queen is coming to h1. King moves. Knight jumps. White won't survive much longer, trust me. If king moves to avoid the check, knight jumps with check. After king goes to e1, then bishop to g3. So no matter what white plays, let's take one example. Knight attacks the bishop. Queen gives check. King moves. Another check. Only move. Yes! Bishop to g3. Checkmate. The rook cannot block the check. It's pinned. Let's move on. Fishing pole number 3. e4, e5. On the board, we have the Italian game, Giuoco Pianissimo. Don't castle. Let's play a fried liver style attack. Knight jumps to g5. Look, f7 really needs help. So after black castles kingside, push pawn to c3, the main setup of the Giuoco Pianissimo. Yes, you could also push b4, or maybe continue with queen to b3, trying to pressure f7 from a distance. Okay, let's say a pawn goes to a 6. Here, Stockfish recommends knight back to f3. I don't like passive moves. Let's continue with an aggressive plan. Fishing pole setup. The best move for black is pawn to d6. Because if your bait gets taken, strike, bro. What kind of fish do you think you'll catch? If knight doesn't leave, just hit it anyway. If knight runs away to e8, we continue with queen to h5. Or if knight goes to h7 instead, still, queen to h5, then capture the knight, checkmate. If knight captures the pawn, no problem, just play queen to h8, checkmate. And the issue now is that the pawn cannot be pushed, because you have a strong Italian bishop. Pawn is pinned, guys. So rook has to give the king an escape square. Capture the knight? Yes, feel free if you like. We just capture the pawn with check. King moves. Please feel free to pause the video. What's your move? Let's go brutal! The rook! Hey, king! Catch me if you can. Okay, Mr. Rook. Spicy checkmate! Hey, bro, after h6, then h4. What if my opponent doesn't take the bait? For example, pawn to d6. Good question. But be careful! The bishop is about to come under attack. Things can start getting dangerous if that happens. We push the pawn, protecting this light square. Are you kidding? Look, your queen, buddy. Its view is blocked by the pawn. Um, yeah, you're right. Oh well, the pawn's already been pushed. Oh no! My pony! The show must go on. We recapture. Knight has to move. So after knight moves, counterattack the pawn. Twice. Go ahead and protect the pawn. Exactly. The threat of the queen coming to h5 is back again. Hey, knight, I'll be there soon. And in this position, in many cases, black's immediate response is pawn to g6. Clearly, the pawn is on full alert, controlling h5. You don't need to continue with queen to f3, because the queen can no longer swing over to h3. Look at this bishop. Quiet, but dangerous. So go ahead and push the pawn. Now, of course, queen to f3 is much more comfortable, because h3 is now clear. On top of that, your pawn is ready to capture the pawn, attacking the knight immediately. This pawn can't capture your pawn, it's still pinned. Remember, the g-pawn must not take f5, because h5 is about to become an open highway for the enemy. Once the queen arrives on h5, black's position simply crumbles into dust. So what's your move here as black? Let's say knight takes g5. You swing the queen over to g4, doubling the pressure on that knight instantly. And still, pawn cannot protect the knight. The bishop's pin is extremely powerful, guys. So after knight retreats, pause the video again. What's your move? Nope, don't bring the queen to h3. It looks very smart, then captures the knight with checkmate. Let's brutal! The queen! Check! Good job, bishop. King has to go to the corner. Beautiful checkmate. Amazing tactical combination. Such a deadly fishing pole. Fishing pole number 4. e4, e5. Knight to f3. On the board, we have the 4 knights game, Italian variation. Bishop to c4. If black responds with a tricky move, please don't capture the knight, because pawn comes to d5, forking the bishop and the knight. Okay, bro, let's play a wild move. And if knight goes ahead and grabs the dessert, it's fine, just capture it back. After bishop develops, prepare kingside castling. What's your move? Yes! You can continue with the tactical shot. After king captures the bishop, then queen to d5 with check, and bishop falls. Or we can play knight to g5. Now f7 is under double attack. Most black players usually continue with kingside castling. We bring your queen to h5. There's a mate in one threat. Queen takes on h7. Of course, pawn has to be pushed. Yep, you can just play a waiting move, like bishop to d2, preparing to castle. Just waiting while your opponent has breakfast, because after the pawn finishes eating the knight, pawn captures. Then, queen comes to h7 or h8, immediate checkmate. Go ahead and play that. But the move that will really give your opponent a headache is... Yes, queen to g6. Then queen to h7. Game over. Sorry, boy, you can't take me. Bishop pins the pawn. And to avoid the checkmate threat, black has to give up the queen. You just capture it with the pawn. And up to you. Enjoy the game. Because here, if the pawn captures your knight, pawn takes pawn. So how can black stop queen to h7 checkmate? Bro! Yes! Hey, no need to shout. My ears are still fine. The rook moves, bro. Okay, this rook move, right? Is it giving the king an escape square? Game over. Checkmate, bro. But wait, I've got a puzzle for you. You can also give check using the rook. King has to capture the rook. And now, here's the puzzle. Try to find the mate in 3. And if you manage to solve it, drop a comment. Okay, guys, those were 4 beautiful and stunning checkmates. Whew. fishing pole trap. Hope you enjoyed the brutality, and I hope it was useful. Stay tuned for more content, stay healthy, take care of yourself. See you in the next video. Thanks.